We have a very special, all of our guests are special, but this one's extra special. He is a world-renowned doctor of pornology, who received his degree, I believe, from the University of Helsinki at Taipei, if I'm not mistaken. Isn't that correct? He's going to be reading, as I said earlier, one of the filthiest pieces of poetry ever written by a major W.H. Auden-like writer. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Dr. Alex Kinney!
Very much. Can you hear me? Great. Well, most of you, as I can see by looking out, are really much too young to remember that there was a time in the middle of the last century when if you wanted to partake of the more spectacular output of some of our major writers, Henry Miller, Anais Nin, even Tennessee Williams, and the great poet W.H. Auden, you had to know the right bookstores, usually in the city center, to go to with the cool cashier who kept behind the counter certain things that you could ask for in plain brown wrappers that were then slipped quietly, usually in between a newspaper or a magazine you were already buying, not itemized on your bill, just a little added, and you walked out with it feeling a little bit dirty. And let's face it, who among us has not wished to feel just a little bit dirty? I'm sorry you won't find it in the Oxford Companion to English Literature, English Poetry, but here is the great A Day for a Lay, probably the most famous suppressed poem of the 20th century by W.H. Auden. It was a spring day, a day for a lay, when the air smelled like a locker room, a day to blow or get blown. Returning from lunch, I turned my corner, and there on a nearby stoop, I saw him standing alone. I glanced as I advanced. The clean white t-shirt outlined a forceful torso. The light blue denims divulged much. I observed the snug curves where they hugged the behind. I watched the crotch where the cloth intriguingly bulged. Our eyes met. I felt sick. My knees turned weak. I couldn't move. I didn't know what to say. In a blur, I heard myself like a stranger speak. Will you come to my room? Then a husky voice, okay. I produced some beer and we talked. Like a little boy, he told me his story. Present address next door, half Polish, half Irish, the youngest from Illinois. Profession mechanic, name Bud, age 24. And here he was, sitting beside me, legs apart. I could bear it no longer. I touched the inside of his thigh. His reply was to move closer. I trembled, my heart thumped, and jumped as my fingers flew to his fly. The circumcised head was a work of master craft, with perfectly beveled rim of unusual weight and the friendliest red. Even relaxed, the shaft was of noble dimensions, with the wrinkles that indicate singular powers of extension. For a second or two, it lay there inert, then suddenly stirred in my hand, then paused as if frightened or doubtful of what to do, and then with a violent jerk began to expand. By soundless bounds it extended and distended. By quick great leaps it rose, it flushed, it rushed to its full size, nearly 9 inches long and 3 inches thick, a royal column, ineffably solemn and wise. I tested its length and strength with a manual squeeze. I bunched my fingers and twirled them about the knob. I stroked it from top to bottom. I got on my knees. I lowered my head. I opened my mouth for the job. The gorgeous organ stood stiffly and straightly out with a slight flare upwards. At each beat of its heart, it threw an odd little nod my way. From the slot of the spout exuded a drop of transparent, viscous goo. Well hung, slung from the fork of the muscular legs, the firm vase of his sperm like a bulging pear, cradling its handsome glands, 2 Herculean eggs, swung as he came towards me, shameless, bare. We aligned mouths, we entwined, all actless clutch, all fact contact, the attack and the interlock of tongues, the charms of arms. I shook at the touch of his fresh flesh. I rocked at the shock of his cock. His sensations yearned for consummation. He untucked his legs and lay panting, hot as a teenage boy, naked, enlarged, charged, aching to get sucked, clawing the sheet, all his pores open to joy. I raised the delicious meat up to my mouth, brought the face of its heart-on to my face. Slipping my lips round the Byzantine dome of the head, with the tip of my tongue I caressed the sensitive groove. He thrilled to the trill. "That's lovely," he hoarsely said. "Go on, go on." Very slowly I started to move. Gently, intently, I slid to the massive base of his tower of power, paused there a moment down in the warm, moist thicket, then began to retrace inch by inch the smooth way to the throbbing crown. Indwelling excitement swelled at delights to come as I descended and ascended those thick, distended walls. I grasped his root between left forefinger and thumb, and with my right hand tickled his heavy, voluminous balls. I plunged with a rhythmical lunge, steady and slow, and at every stroke made a corkscrew roll with my tongue. His soul reeled in the feeling. He whimpered, "Oh!" as I tongued and squeezed and rolled and tickled and swung. Then I pressed on the spot where the groin is joined to the cock, slipped a finger into his arse and massaged him from inside. The secret sluices of his juices began to unlock. He melted into what he felt. "Oh, Jesus!" Waves of immeasurable pleasures mounted his member in quick spasms. I lay still in the notch of his crotch, inhaling his sweat, his ring convulsed round my finger. Into me, rich and thick, his hot spunk spouted in gouts, spurted in jet after jet after jet.
You have a whole new idea when someone at a cocktail party just, "I love W.H. Auden. He's wonderful." Yeah, you have no fucking idea how wonderful he is, motherfucker.